if you empower your teams and they live up to that empowerment,
Mhm.
a lot of good things can happen.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the Smack Hospitality Podcast. For our 7th episode of this season, I had the opportunity to talk to Lorenzo Stoll, head of Western Switzerland at Swiss Airlines. We talked about how he personally experienced the beginning of the crisis back in spring, in what way he keeps his team motivated in these special times, and how his job sometimes resembles the job of a general manager at a hotel. Oh, and he also told me about which other airline he would fly with if he could not choose to fly with Swiss. So tune in and enjoy the show. Okay, Lorenzo, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, Patricia. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, actually. That's true. And well, first of all, I wanted to thank you, actually, because I won a Swiss voucher when I graduated this summer.
Ah,
And it's actually, I think, from the airport in Geneva. So thank you very much. I hope I can use it rather sooner than later.
yeah, we hope to welcome you soon on board. It would mean that our flight operations have resumed a little bit.
Exactly. So I would like to start off by basically asking you a question that I was wondering about when I first stumbled upon your profile, namely, what does your position, head of Western Switzerland, mean? What does this role entail?
So the role entails the fact that I'm leading the whole Swiss International Airlines setup here in Geneva. Which entails everything that ranges from sales, marketing, human resources, finance, operations, network planning, revenue management, cabin crew management, and everything, all roles that we need to operate out of Geneva. So it's kind of a managing director for Swiss in out of Geneva.
Wow, that sounds like a job that 5 people could be doing.
Yeah, it is pretty demanding, but it's highly interesting and fascinating.
And so, what would you say a normal day in your life usually looks like?
A normal day usually looks like? Well, the first thing I always have a look at first thing in the morning is the numbers and the figures of the day before.
Hmm.
So, did we have a smooth operation? Did we operate how was our punctuality? How many flights did we have to cancel? How many passengers did we transport? What is the seat load factor? What is the revenue generated by that? What are the profit margins to see if we are on track, even if you can't just look at it daily, but I like to
Hmm.
have a look daily, and I also have a look at my booking outlook, so to see what is coming up. And then the next moment in the day would then be starting the meetings I have with my management team here in Geneva, which with a variety of topics in the course of the day, which can be the next marketing campaign, what do we
Hmm.
do on social media, or if I meet our head of cabin crew, how is the mood and the morale of the cabin crews, how
Hmm.
is the productivity, what are the next topics coming up in managing a cabin crew for Geneva. Then there will be for sure some discussions with my peers and our counterparts in our headquarters in Zurich
Hmm.
and or in Frankfurt. I'd probably also would meet in the course of the day one or two of our key suppliers, may it be Swissport for our ground operations, may it be Gate Gourmet for our catering operations, or the Geneva airport itself, with always the objective to achieve an as smooth and as good operation as possible, and providing our passengers with the best customer experience possible.
That does sound like long days, but super interesting.
Yeah,
And
it is long days, but I have a little mantra that I have since the beginning of my professional career. I always said days have 20 to 4 hours and then you can sleep. So
and how would you say have your days changed now in these very special times that we're currently in? What does your day look like now?
well, I think when you have the privilege of holding a position like mine, what you're trying to do, in fact, is shaping your own future. So you're trying to be a few moves ahead of the day of the market. You think maybe 3, 6, 9, 12 months in front, and you try to shape with your team what the future looks like. And that was before, where you move, you try to, yeah, to shape your future. Now, we're not in a position to shape anything anymore. We spend our time reacting to an ever changing reality.
Mhm.
And so, the main of my days today is we try to get ready for the next day or for the next week, and we're doing a lot of it's probably not crisis management anymore, because that has become kind of our daily routine. But we moved from thinking the next step to acting on very short term to the
Mhm.
reality.
Mhm.
And this is quite it's quite demanding, because you have this sense of powerlessness. You feel that there's nothing you can do. You're not in the driver's seat anymore.
Mhm.
You're just sitting in that car, and you go with it, and you try to not hit any post that would be around.
That is true. No, I'm sure it demands a lot more flexibility from everyone that is involved, and that must be challenging. And
It is very challenging, the flexibility, because an airline is not a flexible system as such. We we need to ensure safe and secure flight operations.
Mhm.
We live and breathe on procedures, processes, checklists, and we try to have an as sturdy as possible system working. And with the crisis and the consequences of it, we moved from that to having to every day readapt our ways of working to an ever changing reality. And that is, as you mentioned before, extremely demanding on all of us.
Mhm. That is crazy because it probably also demands a certain different personality or character, and well, demands changing your entire way of being as a person and in your work life. So it is quite crazy if you think about it. And I don't want to focus on the crisis too much, obviously, because I think you are dealing with that on a daily basis. But I would be very interested to hear about a bit about your personal experience back in March, when we all realized that this is going to be much more impacting us much more than we thought, probably. So how is that 1 week or those 3 days where you kind of realized, okay, this is here to stay, probably?
Well, to us, for us, it started already in January, when the pandemic started in China,
Hmm.
and where we said, we can't fly to China anymore, and we were like, okay, it's a hit on our numbers, but it's okay. If we can't operate to China anymore, we'll find ways out, and we all had this kind of hope that it stay secluded in
Hmm.
China. And then the thing did spread. And for us, it became a reality when the United States issued a border closure
Hmm.
note, not allowing anybody back access to the US, if not being holding of a residence permit, or being a US citizen. And then from there on, it was this ripple effect across the whole world. One country after the other was shutting down and closing the borders. And then we realized this is gonna stay, and it's gonna stay for long.
Hmm.
And the first few days we were kind of a little bit in shock. We Maybe there was some form of denial,
Hmm.
saying like, hey, this is not happening. This just, we had 9/11, we had SRAS, we had, it's going to go away, and it did not. And for me, it was very, very difficult to to move to this, as I said before, to this. I'm trying to shape the with the best knowledge I can the future of the company, and take us on a growth path, and thinking how can they expand, and what is the next destinations we want to serve, and what are the next products for our customers, and what we can do to, okay, we need to ground the fleet. First
Hmm.
question is, where do we go with the aircraft? Because airports are not really designed to have huge amounts of aircrafts parked. And they
Hmm.
are, you roll back. So that was when we made the decision of saying, okay, we stop operating, and we reduce from in Geneva, it was about 45 flights a day to one a day.
That's crazy.
Was It was really, really shocking, and I have to admit that it took me a good week just to realize, and from there on, then you as you said, you change, you switch mood,
Hmm.
and you go like from, okay, now, um, the 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 decision making horizon is 24 hours, and you realize that the decision you make today will not be any good tomorrow.
Hmm.
You can change it again,
Hmm.
and we had to move to this super, super flexible thing.
This
But it
mindset,
also came with a lot of positive. Winston Churchill once said, "Never waste a
yeah.
good crisis,"
Hmm.
and I think we realized that a lot of things that we thought were written in stone, are not. And you find other ways, and you see all your teams around you getting innovative, creative, and trying to find the best possible solutions.
Hmm.
And that was also something very impressive and enlightening for me in my leadership role,
Hmm.
to see how the teams did commit to adapt to that new reality.
Do you have an example of where something was changed drastically that everyone always thought it was written in stone and will never change?
Well, for example, network planning.
Hmm.
Where do we fly to? How many frequencies do we fly? What type of aircraft do we fly? Is used to be a rather heavy process, because there's a lot of steps involved
Hmm.
for operating a destination, and we empowered the teams literally on the front line. So we would take a call in the morning and saying, hey, can we fly to London today? And our station people in London would tell us, yeah, today you can. So you get an aircraft and you're off to London, which you would never do like this. You would have
Before.
a slot, you would have a timing, you would have the flight on sales, on the various distribution channels, and there this adaptability, and also realizing that if you empower your teams and they live up to that empowerment,
Hmm.
a lot of good things can happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like you said, crisis always inspires innovation. This
Mhm.
one especially has brought about a huge change in terms of digitalization for a lot of companies. I don't know if that was also the case for you at Swiss, and how you collaborate within teams or anything. But in a lot of companies, this really pushed them or forced them to adapt.
Yeah, we because of the sanitary risk, we have reduced the presence of the people in the offices to the strict minimum. So,
Hmm.
and here I try to also be exemplary, and I think since mid of March, I did spend 5 days in the office. The rest of it, I work from home,
Mm.
and we do web conferences and
Yeah.
Teams and Zooms and WebExes and
Everything.
everything, and it works. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
But we also now, it's almost, yeah, it's 9 months we are in this crisis. We also realize that it is, in terms of leadership, extremely demanding to keep the teams connected,
Hmm.
because you're to the company and to the reality of the company. Because the finance people, the marketing people, is people you can exchange easily with the digital tools.
Mm-hmm.
But what about our pilots? What about our cabin crews that when they are not providing an excellent service on board of our aircrafts, they they have no reason to connect with the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a work pattern where you are fully engaged during the hours you are on duty, and afterwards you are released of your duties, and you need time to recover of the effort and
Yeah,
everything.
physically, yeah.
But those timings, and with the very low production we have today, is how do we keep the people connected? So we do web calls, we do conferences, we do virtual coffee and rolls in the morning. But it comes a moment, human beings are social animals. We
Mm-hmm.
need
For sure.
contact with the others. And this is, for example, one thing that keeps me mentally very busy is how do I stay connected with my teams?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
maybe because of my Latin background, I also have a very strong preference for human exchange live, and not only the business but the chit chat also, caring about is your family good, are the
Mm-hmm.
kids okay, do you have had a good weekend, all these little things that make the social life in a company and that create corporate culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how would you have explained the corporate culture before? Because now there's different initiatives that you have to start, right? Like you said, the virtual coffee breaks and everything. But how would you have described it before at Swiss, the internal company culture?
It is, and it still is today. It is lived different, but we always had um, a very open, very constructive, very pragmatic, and very human culture. It doesn't exist in English, but in German, you have two forms. You have the Sie and the Du. And for
Hmm.
example, the Du, so the more familiar form, is the standard language
Hmm.
at Swiss. So
I love that.
you are you are per Du from the CEO to the apprentices.
Hmm.
And because I think it's also driven by our airline business model, feedback is of the utmost importance for our safety.
Hmm.
So people are our culture tolerates and allows mistakes. And if you stand to your mistake, and it was not a mistake made on purpose with a bad prejudice thought,
Hmm.
so there's no harm intended, you will not be blamed.
Hmm.
I'd rather have somebody come to me and say, Lorenzo, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, this and this happened, and so that we can manage the consequences of it and learn from that mistake,
Hmm.
than having people hiding things away. So it was a very benevolent, and it is still a very benevolent, a very nice, almost cuddling, in the right sense of term, culture. We take care a lot of ourselves among us,
Hmm.
because we need that to be relaxed. We need that to provide a good service on board. If
Hmm. Especially, yeah. So caring is I think one of the
yeah,
words that people also associate with Swiss, and I think that that needs to be lived right through all the departments, and
yeah,
everyone needs to embody that.
yeah,
And everyone who's ever flown with Swiss, I think, well, I think I'm like the best example. My mom would never fly anything else than Swiss ever. So I must say, I think I've flown with another airline only once in my life. So I love Swiss, obviously,
thank you.
and you can really tell, right? So I'm happy
Yeah,
to hear that that's also in other departments in the admin sections also the case, and especially you. I mean, you lead a team of like 250 people. I read somewhere. So
yeah.
back in the days when you were all physically present, how did you make sure that you kind of check in with everyone, or that you also are present as a leader? Because that's always very hard, I think, to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone feels like you're there.
So as said, I'm a big fan of human contact. So part of my working days have always also been on the exchange. So I literally walk the floors in the offices and just say hello to the teams, ask how they are, maybe distribute a few tasks because I think it's as good to do it in person as to do it by email or with other means. So I would invest some time and it's to exchange with people, and that is pretty easy with the ground staff because they are assigned
Mhm.
duties. Let's say it's a Monday to Friday job. It is a bit more challenging with the cabin crews because they are on the aircrafts. And so what I did used to do was once a month I would go and fly with the crews. So
Oh.
I would be supplementary to the crew, and I would help them in doing the service on board, and also telling the maître de cabine, who's the team leader for the
Mhm.
cabin crew, that he or she is the boss of the day. It's not me. I'm here to support the team. And so you can there have in a little bit in the downtimes when you're sitting in the galley before the landing, and so you can have an exchange
Mhm.
with the cabin crews. And it has a second perk is you have exchanges with the passengers
For
and
sure.
you get unfiltered passenger feedback. You can say, hello, I'm Lorenzo Stoll. I'm the head of Western Switzerland, and I'm very pleased to welcome you on the flight. Is there anything you would like to tell me about your experience with Swiss, good or bad? And you get it unfiltered, and it helps you thinking on what needs to be improved
Mhm.
to even have a better atmosphere and service for the passengers
Mhm.
on the teams. And I also would do a monthly management breakfast where I'd invite whoever of the teams wanted to join. Were welcome. We would have coffee and croissant, and I would give an update on where do we stand. So, performance of the company, the upcoming projects, the next milestones, the highlights of the past months,
Mhm.
the foreseeable highlights of the next few months, maybe a bit of the challenges coming up, especially, for example, when we were entering the peak season, which is July, August,
Mhm.
which is really straining for everybody, and especially for the crew's cockpit or cabin, and have those exchange. So my leadership style is on that dimension. I try to connect with people physically.
Mhm. It's very interesting because how you described it, it really reminded me of well, how a GM kind of has to lead his hotel, right? Because he also has to make sure that he kind of shows the presence in the hotel and is in the restaurant and
Mm.
shows his face in the kitchen, and because if he doesn't do that, he kind of loses touch with the base, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you hear and see in many hotels where the GM never really leaves his office, and kind of also loses the interaction with the guest, like you just said, when you're
Mm.
on the airplane, actually checking in with the end customer. That's very important. And I hope that you're on my flight when I use my voucher in like a year. Hopefully, I will.
Let me know. Let
I
me
will
know if I'm
request.
around. Yeah. Um, but I like the parallel with the hospitality. And in fact, an airline that like Swiss, which aims to provide a premium service,
Mhm.
I always say I'm a flying hotelier
You are.
because we, well, we don't have rooms, but if you look at, we provide you with food and beverage. You can sleep on our aircrafts. You do check in. We welcome you on board. We It's a flying hotel.
Mhm.
It's a flying hotel, and this idea of hospitality and not just being displaced from point A to point B, but travel, enjoy the journey
Mhm.
is as you might enjoy your stay in a hotel is for me the core of the of hospitality.
Mhm.
And yes, our hotels are a bit smaller than the large units, a bit more expensive, a bit more complex to operate, maybe, but this is what we do
Mhm.
on a shorter time sometimes. But I look at it like this: we are part of the hospitality business.
No, for sure. And what you sell is an experience.
Yeah,
And as long as you do that, you're in the business of hospitality, in my opinion.
exactly. Yeah.
So, as I'm from Zurich, I need to address this because a lot of cynics would probably say, why does there need to be another airport in Switzerland? It's such a tiny country. Why do they have to have Geneva and Zurich? And obviously, I love the Zurich airport. It's where I traveled for the first time. So, how is the relationship between the two airports? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, I think that Switzerland is, as you said, is a small country, but it is also on some aspects a large country. And the setup Swiss has chosen is to have a hub system in Zurich, so where we fly in and fly out people through Zurich from Europe to Zurich to intercontinental and vice versa. While in Geneva, and Geneva is an important place of Switzerland because of the international organizations, because the international Geneva, because of also the whole Lake Geneva region, which is the second most powerful economical region after the Greater Zurich area in Switzerland, needs connections to at least Europe, if not the world. And so the justification for having two airports with slightly different models in Geneva, we fly a lot what we call point to point. So
Mhm.
passengers fly Geneva, London, and they will not connect to another destination behind their arrival. Um, is absolutely justified. Now, as for a lot of things, Switzerland, with its four languages and four cultures, there is ups and downs. And I don't think it is cynics that would say that one airport in Zurich would be enough. It's especially the people living in Zurich. Huh?
That
Because
yeah.
if you ask the Romans, they would love to have more intercontinental connections, for example, straight out of Geneva, and not have to travel through Zurich, which is a passenger convenience. Now everybody understands the system, but when you go on that ground, that discussion ground, it becomes a bit more emotional. But the relationships are good. I think it is very complementary,
Mhm.
and Geneva also because of its geographical setting serves a lot of neighboring France as well,
Mhm.
out of the Geneva airport. So that we have a significant share of passengers originating from neighboring France. So I think at least two airports are acceptable: Western Switzerland and Zurich. One can discuss um, if we would need to be also in Basel, for example, as
Mhm.
Swiss, but there you are like 40 minutes train away from Zurich. So that would be another discussion in terms of overlapping catchments.
Mhm. And so you mentioned before the obviously Switzerland is a very special country with four national languages and everything. So how is the collaboration between the two like teams, Zurich and Geneva? Can you feel like the Röstigraben, which is basically for anyone who doesn't know this term, the differences between the Swiss Romandie and the German speaking part of the country?
I think not really, I have to say, because we what we try to cultivate to get over this Röstigraben is to, in both directions, have very transparent and very open communications. And I think a lot of the misunderstandings between uh, the French-speaking part of Switzerland and the German-speaking part of Switzerland come to the fact that there is not a proper level of communication. Yes, the Romans work and act differently as our compatriots in Germans, but at the end you get the same result, but the way to the result is
Mhm.
different. So it's very important to on both directions, explain how you go to that result and why you would do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is also accepting that romans are in our lifestyle and the way we're a bit more laid back. I always say romans don't take themselves serious, but they seriously work. While the colleagues in Zurich make everything a bit more serious.
For sure.
And once you understand that, you can get over it. For
Mhm.
sure, there will always be differences. But we also play the difference. We are the airline of Switzerland. We're not the airline of Zurich.
No, for sure.
And for example, our food offering at departing from Zurich and departing from Geneva is not exactly the same. So you will get Ragusa chocolate in Zurich, and you will get Branche Caillé in Suisse Romande.
Very cool.
You will get Gipfeli in Zurich, and in Suisse Romande you will get croissants, which we all know is not the same.
It is not.
And this kind of things. And I think the Röstigraben is if you want to have one, you can create it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get over it, you take the best of the two worlds and you get a winning team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely how I feel. I mean, I went to EHL for my studies and basically crossed the Röstigraben every weekend when I came back to Zurich. So I definitely think that there's a lot that we can all learn from each other.
Mm.
But I must say, I must admit, I had the real Swiss German
Cliché.
cliche. I am that Swiss German cliche, which is fine, but I'm working on it. So, but so obviously Swiss belongs to a bigger group, the Lufthansa
Yeah.
Group, and what I think would be really interesting to know for me personally, but also for our listeners, is during these past few months, how was your interaction with the group and the headquarters in Frankfurt? How did the different players learn from each other or support each other in these times?
Well, we always have, also before the crisis, have had a very close collaboration with the headquarters in Frankfurt, with the Lufthansa Group.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to make one important statement. One must realize that there would not be an airline of the size of Swiss and of the dimension and of the profitability and of the connection we offer from Switzerland to the world in Switzerland without the support of the Lufthansa Group.
Mm-hmm.
Modern airlining is about critical mass, is about size. And being part of the Lufthansa Group gives us a huge number of advantages. And so we always worked very, very closely together on almost all dimensions that do not make a difference to the passenger. One good example is fuel.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who does the fuel buying for the Lufthansa Group. If we do that in Zurich or we do that in Frankfurt, it doesn't change. However, the way we organize the experience for the passenger, the way we design cabin interiors, the way we paint our aircrafts, the way we say hello, the food you get needs to be local.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been very well able to achieve that, with sometimes the normal frictions that you might have when you're one company part of a huge corporation the size of the Lufthansa Group, because not everybody does always have a full picture of what is going on, but you can work on that. Then during the crisis, also there, the same alignment work, the same organizational crisis management we had to deal with, and we still have, is fully coordinated across all airlines of the Lufthansa Group. For example, one good example is the network.
Mm-hmm.
With the very low passenger demand that is around currently, it doesn't make no sense that there is a Lufthansa aircraft, a Swiss aircraft, an Austrian aircraft, to name the three large airlines of the group, flying to New York. Let's consolidate the demand
Mhm.
and operate as efficient as possible, because we need to minimize our operating costs. So it worked pretty well, but I think Lufthansa Group does not impose that much to Swiss.
Mhm.
It is a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of finding the optimum of the group. So this idea that is all decided in Frankfurt is a wrong idea.
Picture, yeah.
It's a wrong picture.
Mhm. So
For
you
sure, we will decide at group level which kind of aircrafts we're going to buy, because it's between the smaller ones that are 100 million US dollars a piece, the largest one you look at 450 millions a piece.
Mhm.
So it's normal that the shareholder says, no, guys, let's do a consolidated approach, because there's a lot of money at stake.
Mhm.
And it's normal. But for the passenger, again, there's very few passengers that 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 understand the difference between um, that type of aircraft or that type of aircraft. But
Mhm.
every passenger has an experience once the door is closed. There you want to be in a Swiss aircraft because you've chosen to fly Swiss. You don't want to have the same aircraft and the same experience as Lufthansa.
Mhm.
It's like when when you choose to stay at a youth hostel, or no, let's take the Marriott Group that has a large array of
Offering, yeah.
brands. Yeah, so when you choose to stay at a Ritz Carlton within the Marriott Group, you don't want to have the same experience than staying in one of their
Yeah,
low cost
like a
brands.
Moxie or something, yeah.
Or yeah, you don't, but you can choose which experience you want to have.
Mhm.
But it's still the Marriott Group, so
Mhm.
it's the same with us. So there's not that much interference coming from Frankfurt.
Mhm. So you would say it's more an opportunity for synergies and
It's an
efficiency.
asset.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
than it's an asset. Synergies are there, collaboration is there. Also, there you need to get over the cultural thing. Huh? The Swiss Germans don't act and work and live the same way than our German colleagues. But here
Mhm.
again, open communication.
Mhm.
Tell what you need. Tell what you do. Tell what you want to achieve. No hidden agendas. No sin. Don't do politics, but work
Yeah.
and deliver the best experience possible for your customers. Usually helps a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, if you keep the customer first, usually things will
Yeah.
work out. So if you had, I have to ask this question, if you had to fly with another airline, and you cannot fly with Swiss, which airline would you choose?
Well, I think I'd go for Lufthansa.
Why?
Um, I, I think our colleagues at Lufthansa are also extremely good at delivering a consistent qualitative experience. Um, um, in my yeah, this is I choose Lufthansa.
Hmm.
If I had to choose another carrier than a group member, I think I'd go for either ANA, so All Nippon Airways,
Hmm.
or Singapore Airlines,
Okay, why?
um, because I think Singapore, at least to Asia, I'd go with Singapore because they also have this ability to provide you with a very unique experience.
Hmm.
Flying to the US, probably you'd go for United, um, and that's about it.
So do you sometimes spy on the competition? Like
Oh yes,
incognito, you just
oh
travel and
yes,
you never tell anyone that you work for Swiss, and then you just fly with the competition.
yeah. You might even see me on EasyJet aircrafts.
Really? And
Yeah,
do they sometimes recognize who you are?
no, no,
Never.
no. I'm not that famous.
They're not doing their homework.
Well, that's their problem, not mine. But I think you have to test and you have to understand what your competition does.
Hmm.
You should never, ever design a business model or a customer experience in function of your competition.
Mm-hmm.
You should choose to go your own way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to understand what is it that they do. What is a low-cost carrier model? It's not about justifying they do better or worse than we do, but what is it that they do? What can I learn from them
Mm-hmm.
when I observe their boarding process, their service process on board, their commercials? What can we learn from them? Where can we get inspired by them? Because we all strive for the same. We want to have the best experience possible for our passengers within our model.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you can choose to stay at Moxie or at Ritz-Carlton. You can choose to fly EasyJet or Swiss. But why do you make that choice? What is the trigger?
Mm-hmm. And can
And
you?
and if you choose Swiss, what is your expectations? And where can I make a difference versus another experience you made?
And can you share one thing that you took from such an experience and you learned something from such a trip?
Yes, I think one thing, low-cost carriers now for years do not provide free food and free drinks on board. They sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been of the opinion that on the short-haul routes operated by Swiss in Europe, we should also apply that model. Not for a cost thinking, but for a choice thinking. And we observed very precisely how and what does EasyJet do on that topic. And it gave us very clearly the direction of where we did not want to go. And when we launched, the program is called Swiss Saveur, as a prototype in Geneva in 2018, we said we want to have fresh food, so made daily fresh, a good selection. We want to have that selection and that fresh food produced by a strong, recognized brand. So we associated with Globus, which is the Globus Delicatessa, which is a very well-known food and beverage brand here in Switzerland.
For sure.
And we also said we want to have signature items that people can recognize, and we want to have sales prices which are not a ripoff, but where people can choose. And yes, the first few weeks, the passengers were a bit surprised, and this is now low cost, and so. But then they started realizing that when they were paying 9 francs and 50 cents for a club sandwich that is almost 200 grams heavy, and that has so much gravy in it that if you're not careful, you will have the stain on your tie. They started enjoying it.
Yeah,
and we get a lot of good feedbacks, and now we're rolling that out. In spring, it will be rolled out to the whole Swiss network, also starting from Zurich, with this quest for quality and choice. I think times where I can give you just a sandwich that is an industrial thing produced, whatever, because in the airlines have always provided free food, and I'm talking on the short haul business, are gone. But if you can choose between a sandwich, a club sandwich, a selection of dry cuts, a selection of cheeses, muffins, Bircher muesli, and all those things, you will enjoy.
And you do not mind spending that money because you have the freedom of getting what you actually want instead of the exact same run-of-the-mill thing that everyone gets.
Exactly. And I'm also of the conviction that premium does not mean free.
Yeah, no,
there
it
is
means
a number
more
of
choices.
premium brands that have never done something free. It means, for me, premium is the ability for the consumer to shape its experience to his own needs. And it starts with the food. It starts with the selection of beverages, but it starts when you look at premium car brands, you can choose the color of your car. Those little things, not only the color, a lot of options. And when you stay in premium and super premium hotels, you can choose the pillow you're going to get. But most of those things don't come for free.
So you would say that the future is individuality and personalization.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say, we need to be careful with personalization, because I don't think we will be able to personalize down to every single individual needs. But probably we can personalize down to clusters of
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
And as long as that personalization has a value to you, you will be willing to pay the right price for it. Again, it cannot be a ripoff.
Yeah. It needs
But
to be.
if it makes sense and you say, okay, this is, having a, I'm on the plane with my wife. It is our wedding anniversary, whatever trip. And yes, let's get that glass of champagne. It's going to be nice. And you get a glass of champagne, and you're happy to pay for it because it has a value to you in that moment. And the next day you travel alone, you're on a business trip, and you don't want to be bothered by nobody because you need to revise this presentation. You need to do it to your board of directors before you land. And it's okay. So it's understanding, I think, those needs clusters that have value for the passengers.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I do think that's being valued more and more by us as human beings. So the last question that I kind of started, this is my second episode only on Smack, so you're my second guest. But I always want to end on a note where I just graduated this summer from my university. And I always try to ask how your education has brought you to where you are now. So well, yeah, maybe not telling us every little step of your career, but just what in your life today, or in your professional life today, do you apply that you have learned from your educational background?
So I come from a family of doctors.
Oh.
And I wasn't that keen on medicine or law or whatever. But I wanted to find a career in education where I could make a difference for people. And so the École Hôtelière de Lausanne and the hospitality industry came kind of like saying, hey, yeah, this is something you can make a difference for the people. And in the way you host them, in the way you talk to them, in the way. And so I choose to study at the École Hôtelière de Lausanne. It was already a few years ago, I have to say. I graduated 1996, so
that was basically yesterday.
Yeah, it was basically yesterday. Maybe the day before, but not much far away. And my whole career made be at I started at the Montreux tourist office, and then I spent 12 years with Nestlé. Has always been connected to how can I create value for the guests, for the consumers, for the customer, for the passengers. And I think one thing that I learned at École Hôtelière de Lausanne, and that I still keep very warm at heart, and it's kind of one of my core drivers, is the intense fulfillment I experience when I see happy customers, and that I know I've been part of that. This is for me really enjoying the joy of serving people, but in the right sense of the term, helping them in having a good experience, is for me the utmost that I get from EHL, with a few other things. But I think that is the core. This is my driver. Is this? Yeah, I get my personal professional satisfaction is to know that I've been part of a good experience for passengers. And some days we achieve very well, and some days we fail. We're not always good. But then you also have the chance to fix it. And I think this is what drives is the red thread across along my career.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting you say this, because my mom and my professors and everyone basically told me I should study medicine when I was done with high school. And I could not be less interested in that path of career. And I chose EHL, obviously, as well, for the exact same reason, because in the end, I felt like it was a people's business much more than any of the other careers I looked at. And that direct interaction with the guest or with your end customer, it doesn't need to be a guest, gives me an incredible satisfaction and joy. And that's why I think all of us kind of stay in hospitality related businesses in the end, because it's just what makes us happy.
Because it's thrilling. I think if I look at what we do at Swiss, for a few hours, we are part of the life of our passengers.
Mm-hmm.
We will have every day on our flights somebody that flies back to his family, someone that goes to propose to his girlfriend, someone that will go for a divorce trial, someone that is going for a funeral, someone that is going for signing a big business contract, for someone that is going to give a conference, applying for a new job, and being for a few hours part of that, and making that journey to this new moment in their life as pleasant as possible is the absolute thrill. There's not much better you can get in your life, professionally speaking.
No, for sure. It's incredible to be able to have an impact on someone's life like that.
And this is what I strive for every day.
Well, thank you very much. This was a perfect ending to our podcast. Thank you for being with us and for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Patricia.
Of course.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Special thanks to our season sponsor, I Reckon You, hospitality's first customer data platform. Their philosophy is to stop buying software and building a framework. Their middleware platform connects the hotel's above property and on-premise systems, creating a frictionless flow of hotel and guest data that enhances the guest journey while increasing operational efficiency. Find out more at ireckonyou.com, and don't forget to check out what there is to know about Smack at smack.media or on our YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook channel. We'll see you next time.